Good evening and welcome to the Village of Austin Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting of June 8th, 2021. Again, due to the public health and safety concerns associated with COVID-19, the board is meeting via video conference using the Zoom platform in accordance with Executive Order 2202.1. There is no public participation in person tonight. Rather, the public can watch the meeting live online through Zoom. So the notice of tonight's meeting was published as required and posted on the village website. The web notice including instructions for members of the public to access the meeting and participate in any public hearings. Comments will only be taken during the public hearing portions of the meeting as usual. In order to participate, please do the following. Members of the public attending online via the Zoom app may use the raise hand feature at the appropriate time if you would like to make a comment. The feature is located at the bottom of the screen. Those attending via telephone can press the *9. The meeting host will see that your hand is raised or that you have pressed the *9 and will unmute those waiting one at a time so that you can speak. Lastly, comments can be emailed through the meeting, during the meeting, to jmartinez@villageofaustining.org. That's JMARTINEZ@villageofaustining.org. Any written comments will be read into the record. Please note that tonight's meeting is being recorded and a video and transcript will be provided at a later date. Let me give you some ground rules. In order to keep this meeting orderly and ensure we get a clear recording, please follow these ground rules. When you are given access to speak, please state your name and address. If you are speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter which is the subject of the hearing. If any speaker is inappropriate, they will be immediately cut off and access removed. To the board members, please mute yourselves when you are not speaking. Also to the board members, I will call on you one at a time to speak to avoid everyone speaking at once. If you wish to speak at any time when I'm not calling on you, you may also use the raised hand function or literally raise your hand and I will see you and call on you. We will use roll call voting for purposes of all board motions. This is to ensure that the record is clear. I want to thank everyone for continuing to go through this process. For the benefit of the record, we're going to do a roll call vote to kick things off. When I say your name, please indicate that you are present. So Marlene Cheatham, present. George Bailyn, can you hear me? George? Kevin Griffith?
Present.
Bob Durayo?
Present.
Mark Gorechny?
Sorry, present.
Okay. Also with us are from Joseph Agostinelli, our building inspector. Jaime Martinez, our planning director. Jamie Kane, our board secretary, and Amanda Brucey, our village land use attorney. George, can you hear us? I still think George is having some trouble hearing.
Yeah, I mean, he learned how to unmute, but he seems to be having an issue with the audio side of things on his end, I think.
You have a sign interpreter?
So, Jamie, can we call and see if there's anyone there that can help him turn up his audio?
You do have a quorum without him, so.
I know, but you know, he's on. And
we want to take this opportunity to meet the future member. Kyle Beckley is here with. He's a panelist. I've added him as a panelist, so I don't know if you want
to. Meeting with us right now is Kyle Beckley. Kyle has graciously agreed to come on. We thought as an alternate member at this point, and Kyle, do you want to just say hello to everyone? Kyle, do you want to unmute and just say hi? Okay. We'll meet Kyle next time.
All right.
Okay, to start off, 14 Water Street. Continuing business of the board, so ZBA 05-2021. Is there someone here to speak on this application tonight?
There's a whole lot of people. Yep. I'm gonna add them all in.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Ron Stein. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Ron Steinversel on behalf of the applicant at 14 Water. As Eric Churchill had suggested, we're here to give a little bit of an update as to what we've been working on the last month and to see where we stand with respect to this board. We have been in discussions with the trustees. We've been before the BAR. Obviously, we've been before the ZBA and the planning board as well. We are continuing to try to determine what it is, where our project fits in the village, and what we need to do in order to obtain the approvals we're looking for. By way of a little bit of background, as everybody's aware, we're seeking a height variance, but more importantly, we're seeking a parking variance. We find ourselves in a little bit of a box, given the various regulations at play here and the parking demands, spatial constraints, most importantly, of this site, giving us no turning radius, and our need to request 100% parking variance. In light of that, we've been trying to work with the trustees to accomplish a few things. One is to make parking on Water Street, permit overnight parking on Water Street. Right now, it's not permitted. We're not clear on why it's not permitted, and we hope that that is sort of a light issue for the trustees to deal with, though it has not, of course, yet been addressed. This is an issue, notably, that is something that the local residents have sought as well. They too, the existing both business and residential owners with whom we have spoken, are very much in favor of this. The other issues that we've been looking at with the trustees is an expansion of the existing municipal lot on Water Street, as well as conversion of the upper MTA lot into municipal parking. Obviously, if those issues had been resolved, we'd be championing them right now and talking about that here. But they have not been resolved. We are nonetheless in a need to move this project forward. And let me say, with respect to parking, while those three efforts that I just described would benefit the community irrespective of our project, and we believe that they should go forward for the benefit of the community, our traffic analysis shows that even without those changes, the community can easily support the 20 parking space waiver that we're looking for. Going a little further, we know that the ZBA has in the past, of course, granted parking waivers. We know that there's a pending one on Water Street right now. And that's what we're looking for. But we are in a cycle right now that is very challenging for us because it's time consuming and costly, which is a cycle between the BAR, the ZBA, the planning board, the trustees, the BAR, the ZBA, the planning board, and the trustees. We are ready, willing, and able to take some action to do something that moves this project forward, but we need a little more guidance from one of these boards to help us move this forward. Because, look, let's be candid here. Is a realistic developer ever coming to a board saying that this is the project I'm building and the only project I'm building, I'll make no changes? Of course not. But after 3 months before the ZBA, what we would very much like to hear tonight is how you feel about our project and what we need to do to get an approval. Please.
So I think there are two pieces to this puzzle. And the first part is the part that we need to, work on finishing up the secret process. And that is imminent. Okay, so that has to be done. And in order for us to do that, we need to, there's some pieces of the pie that we need to work on and do that process first. You know, we have to figure out if there are any significant impacts, if there's anything that needs, you know, like our part of that process since we took on the form of the lead agency. And to that end, there's, you know, like there's some things that we would need in order to answer those questions. And I just need to interrupt for 2 seconds. Jamie, that was George trying to call me. Can you call him? I'm sorry.
I don't have his number, so if someone can send it to me, I will.
So at some point, we need to, you know, I think now, in order for us to move forward, we have to get that. And in order to get through that, you know, I know that the planning board has had some, I know that the planning board has asked for some things. I know that some things come forward. We would like to know what their thinking is and their thoughts on this project. And we would also like to see, as I believe they asked for, a 3D rendering in the context of the neighborhood, so we have a better picture of what things look like. But before, to move forward right now, I think we need to open the public hearing.
May I just ask, Ms. Cheatham, what are those things? You said that there are some things, some pieces about SECRA that you need. Could you tell us what they are so that we can provide them if they're missing?
I think the biggest part is we would like to see a letter from the planning board with their thoughts on the project. And we would like to see a 3D rendering within the context of the neighborhood.
So in terms of the context of the neighborhood, do you wish that to be developed with the massing that is there, or the massing that of the, you know, of what can be built? Because we understand there's a proposal on Secor Road that would greatly change. One of the views that was asked for was on, you know, from Secor Road. If there's a 4-story building on Secor Road, that's a very different context than if there's not.
So if you were doing a 3D rendering, would you do one in the context of Water Street, Secor Road, and
I think that can I provide a recommendation here on this one? I do think that,
I'm sorry.
You know, I think it makes most sense. See, you know, one of the looks are from Secret Road, but I think a lot of the focus has really been on, you know, how it looks next to the neighbors on Water Street. I think you got to look at what's there now. The proposed project on Seeker Road is really so far down the road of, you know, far away from being approved. There's no real way of knowing if that would ever come forward.
Sure, but the fact of the matter, the fact of the matter is that our project is to the zoning as of right requirements. And so to contextualize into this project, it is going to stick out. But we're not coming asking for a variance out of for height and stories that is, you know, because of our whim to go higher. We are building 4 floors as of right proposes. So does everybody that comes to the zoning board require a rendering in context of an as of right zoning massing?
That is not our issue right now. Our issue is if we're going through the secret process and have to answer all the questions in lieu of the secret process, we need to have, like, there's no way we can answer some of those questions at the way that you've given us the information. So we're just asking for additional information to help us get through this process.
With all due respect, the secret process requires an analysis of not just our project, but the project as it impacts with all other proposed projects in the area. So Eric's question is really relevant and important here.
I think that, you know, you need to try to answer the board's request, but there's nothing that precludes you from providing an additional rendering that shows what it would look like if the area is built out to the zoning.
Right.
I think is more in line with what you're trying to say. So
Okay, that's fine.
do both. You can submit
Well,
nothing.
But may I ask a question? Because I don't want to let the secret tail wag the dog here. Okay. A secret analysis on a project like this is you know, tangentially important. We're not talking about developing Harbor Square on a waterfront in numerous marine ecosystems with countless regulatory jurisdictions. We are inland from that. We are on a property that is partially historic fill, that is formally developed. It is not virgin land, and it is in a light industrial area. Whether our secret review, you know, a rendering of our building does not play into our secret review. What that building looks like does not play into the secret review at all. So I'm not sure why we're talking about them in the same breath.
I think that's not necessarily correct, considering one of the things the board has to consider is consistency with community character, and that would be relevant. The context, your building in context, would be relevant to the existing buildings, I would think.
Not
in that particular question.
I
believe that has all been addressed. I mean,
okay, but you're asking, so let me stop you right there. So you're asking the zoning board, who has not actually finished the secret process, is asking for additional information for us to move forward on that process. In order for us to do that, and you're asking us to move forward, I am asking that you provide us the renderings and providing the letter from the planning board so that we can finish this out. Whether we give a positive declaration or a negative declaration is really contingent upon us having the correct information. That's all we're asking for. Okay, we are not normally the agency in a project, so we would like to be able to move forward. We can't move forward anywhere else until this piece is done. And you know, I want to tell you, so if you could do that for us, I think we can move forward, you know, and get the pieces done in a fairly, you know, in a fairly quick manner. But until we get that, we can't move forward.
I want to answer your question in a moment, but first, is the suggestion that we are to produce a letter from the planning board?
No, not you. The board is
because
just
that's what I
asking
heard.
that. No, it's
thing.
not you.
So
The board
hopefully
is-
the
board
planning
is
board will
asking
do that. But again, remember the cycle that we're caught in. BAR, ZBA, planning board, trustees, and back around. At some point, all we are asking for, to answer your question, what do we want? Feedback. That's all we want. Are you telling me that the last piece you need for secret review is the rendering? No problem, we'll get it. But
Right,
we
and
have to date, if I may, to date, not received any substantive feedback to help us, to guide us. It is,
So,
as I mentioned before.
Madam Chair, I would, I would recommend, I think that, you've made your request. If I can, Mr. Steinversel, you've made your request. There are some other elements of things that have been submitted. You have the specialist from Creighton Manning here to talk about the parking study. There are things that you can ask questions about today. I would recommend trying to sort of guide the board to start digging in on those secret questions. The request has been made, whether Mr. Steinversel wants to submit that information or not, and his team wants to submit it or not, is ultimately going to be up to them. You've declared what you want. We can move on to the rest of the analysis, I think.
Well, I would
But I don't
appreciate.
think, and I don't want to get in a merry-go-round of talking about parking and parking studies and some of the other things that have, and the area variance, because right now, until we get past the SEQA review, we can't address those other issues. And I don't want to keep holding you up, and I don't want to keep having a discussion about something we can't vote on tonight or give a determination on tonight, because we're stuck, like, we have to finish the first thing first.
No, my apologies. The parking study is pertinent to the secret review.
Right, so but we're like, can we, as a board, we need to sit down and go through that process. As a board, we may end up, at a separate work session working through the secret process. Again, we are not the normal board that does the secret review. So we would like to be able to sit down, as a board, as a work session, and go through the process. So by the next meeting, we will have that information. We will be able to, hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have that everything done, and we can work forward from there.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm being honest with you tonight. There is not going to be a whole lot of, we want you to do this. What we're asking for is a 3D rendering, and
But
if
there's
you can
certainly,
do that would be helpful for us.
I'm sorry, but to interject, there certainly must be, we want to come back to you holistically with a renderings, with whatever else is needed. And if there are opinions about the parking that can inform our process so we can help each other go through this, we would certainly love to hear those opinions so that we can understand, as the owner here, I'm trying to understand what are opinions about the parking? What are opinions about the story variance? What do board members feel about this? So that we can make a more informed discussion about all of these pieces together. And we've been here each time we've kind of punted down the line with a very small or no feedback. And we're just asking, where are people's opinions on a variance for parking? Where are people's opinions on a variance for height and stories?
I don't think you're going to get any of that on tonight. I think we need to really sit down and go through the process. And again, it's part of the CEQA process. And I think that will give the board a chance to really talk through all of those pieces. Amanda, I see Amanda.
I just wanted to emphasize that I think tonight is a good opportunity for you to ask any questions that you might have of the applicant and any experts or consultants that they have here. And then we could always plan to do your actual analysis of the issues as a board at a separate work session. But while you have the applicant's team here, and you have them available to ask any questions or to review anything that they've provided, I think it's a good opportunity to do that. if you'd like to. And of course, you know, even though we're focused on completing SECRA, I don't think that you are prevented at all, or any of the board members are prevented from saying how they feel about a variance. The point is that the board is not ready to make any decisions on the variances at this point. Absolutely not. That can't
And
be.
we're not asking.
Yeah.
We're not-
That can't be done until SECRA is completed. I think, Marlene, what they're asking is they want to get your temperature on the variances, perhaps to see if this is a viable project or not. Is that correct? Am I characterizing that correctly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Amanda, thank you.
Then I know that we did not adjourn the public hearing from the last time, but I mean, we did adjourn the public hearing from the last time, but if there's any board members that would like to speak, Mark, I see you unmuted.
No,
Mark. Okay. Kevin. Kevin.
So with the parking, I want to clarify for the board, at least in my estimation, which part of the upper MTA lot are you guys exactly looking to take over, so to speak?
Well, we're not looking to take anything over. Absolutely not looking to purchase, take over, or get any rights whatsoever over the lot, the MTA lot in question. But I'm going to let Frank address that because he is the engineer and parking expert.
And Frank, Hami, can I share my screen while Frank talks through these different, just one?
Yeah, yes. So I'd like to emphasize here, I'm going to allow you to share real quick, but I would like to emphasize to the board that it is important to probably, you know, just ask some questions about the methodology and the results of this. Since, you know, Creighton Manning did this study, that's, you know, a good place to kind of focus in on the questions. That's what we would be asking the planning board to focus in on if this was in front of them.
Thank you.
You can share.
Thank you. So just for the record, Frank Filicciotto from Creighton Manning Engineering, 145 Main Street, Ossining. The question from, I believe, Member Griffith was to clarify the location of the lot on Main Street that is potentially the subject of a Board of Trustees action to change its designation. So that is the, I would say, the uppermost lot on this slide. It's a small green lot. I'm sorry, it's the yellow lot directly beneath it. It's an existing lot. There's approximately 16 spaces in that lot that are designated for train station commuter parking. So you would need your typical Metro North parking pass to park there. That's historically what's happened. The idea here that we're working with is, given a lot of the intel that we've gained from our outreach within the neighborhood and just in general from our data collection process, there's a need to provide more parking for people who actually live in this area. And that lot, given its size and location, could be a great candidate to provide a boost to the neighborhood, with or without this application. The green lot is right now it's a grass wooded piece of land that is owned by the city. The idea there would be for this applicant, should things move in a favorable direction, potentially to expand it. It would there'd be a yield of about 6 additional spaces that could be provided with the same designation as a municipal lot for this neighborhood or residents of Ossining in general. But it would not be, if things go the way that everyone has talked about, it would not be a train station commuter lot. So in that area, you would see a plus of 22 parking spaces for people of this neighborhood that they don't currently enjoy the designation of that lot as a train station commuter lot. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Additionally, when was the time period that you took this study?
So I just want to be clear. These lots were not included as game in my study. And I use that word loosely, but we did not consider the train station commuter lots as a viable way for this project to meet its parking requirement because they require the use of a train station commuter pass, and in normal pre-COVID times, we knew that they were well over their, we knew that the demand exceeded the supply, in other words. So while we identified their proximity, we did exclude their existence in our ability to meet our parking demand. There was one exception to that, and that was on the weekend, when that lot is designated as free parking for anyone. And we realized that if someone in 14 Water Street was to have a guest over, or maybe they had moved their car sometime during the week and came back on a Saturday, they could park there on a Saturday because the designation of that lot opens up quite significantly on weekends and holidays. But during the week and normal operation, we did not consider that lot to be a viable area. And you could see that in the slide here, the writing at the bottom, figures do not include spaces in the municipal lots or the train station parking, because I think, Member Griffith, if I'm following your logic, we did count during the pandemic, and we knew when we were out there that the train station lot was going to be, the utilization of the lot was a fraction of what it normally is. And we did not purposely assume that it would be a viable way to meet this project's parking demand.
I have a question. For the, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kevin, if you want to finish.
No, go ahead.
In terms of the available on-street parking within the 6-minute distance, was elevation taken into account in addition to proximity?
Good question. We initially started out with a 1/4 mile radius. That's that blue circle that's on the page now. 1/4 mile radius is an industry standard walking distance that a person is usually willing to accept to get to and from a destination. However, to your point, this is not a grid. There's a lot of topography. So what we did was we approximated what a 6-minute walk would be, and that's that red line. So obviously that shrunk our available supply down significantly, but I think it is more realistic, because to expect someone to park way down on Spring Street, even though it's within the 1/4 mile, they don't have the ability to fly like a bird across that radius to the site. So some topography was considered, but generally speaking, we kept it within that 6-minute walk.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time? I can't see everybody. George or Bob,
Yeah,
would you like to, do you have anything to add? Or
No.
any questions? George, do you have any
questions.
questions?
I would like to emphasize, if there's no other questions.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was going to do the same thing, Eric.
Sorry, go ahead, Frank.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the first time we met was back in April, and I provided a very short overview of the parking study and the main conclusions. But it's very critical for me to get across to this board tonight that while if you were to look at the zoning requirement for this project, we're asking for 20 spaces. But given the mixed use nature of this project, there is a complementary nature between the types of people that will interact with it, such that you're never going to have that peak demand of 20 that we're actually required to ask for. And the idea is that it's shared parking. Think of a daycare center with a grocery store. And you can imagine that being in the same shopping center. When you drop your kids off in the morning at 7 a.m., the grocery store is at a very, very, very low parking demand. But the spaces that you built for that grocery store can be utilized by people coming to the daycare center to drop off their children. There's a shared parking relationship there such that you don't need to satisfy the parking demand for the daycare center on its own and the grocery store on its own, because those peaks never happen at the same time. That is what we're dealing with here based on the types of users that we have in this building. We have people who are going to work from home. We have people who are going to commute via train. We have people who are literally going to drive their car out of the Ossining area in the morning and maybe go to White Plains to work and leave during the day, so their car is not even around. So you have to consider that array of parking behavior. And what we concluded was that even though the on paper ask is for 20 spaces, the realistic demand, peak demand at any one given time is 12 spaces. 12 cars is our peak demand. And when we reviewed the available supply across a variety of times, including overnight when people are sleeping and their cars are on the street, including during the day, and on a weekend during the day, we concluded that there was available space within that 6-minute walk to accommodate 12 parked vehicles. And that is stated very clearly in the parking study. Now, if the actions that we talked about at the beginning were to occur, again, with or without this project, your available supply would be even greater. But for this project, it can be accommodated within that 6-minute walk.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, then, and if I don't, please let me know. The yellow lot and the green lot, or the squares,
Yes.
the available parking would not need to have to be those two lots. It could be fulfilled by using the 2 street overnight streets.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. The
Well-
parking study was done before the idea that's presented on this slide in front of you ever came into being. We came up with this idea after the study was actually submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So I guess in my head, are there additional, this is additional to what has been submitted in the past. So is there additional write-up that kind of covers this that you can actually send to the board? Because I don't believe this was part of our present paperwork.
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to do that. I just want to caveat that because that is being decided by a completely different board and it's really completely outside of this application, because it's really a Board of Trustees matter. It's not something that we can either compel to happen or guarantee to happen. So we could present the what if scenario. If the board were to look favorably on this, I could rerun the parking study, assuming that we have an additional 47 spaces within a 1-minute walk of the site. Things will look even better. But I just want to caveat that we can't guarantee to this board that the Board of Trustees is going to look favorably upon this request. We believe it's a sensible one. I think hopefully everyone on this meeting would agree that, you know, to avail this parking to the neighborhood with or without the 14 Water Street project makes sense. But we obviously can't guarantee it. So be happy to do that.
If I may, just, if I may.
Can I stop you, Ronald, just for a minute? I see Mr. Durayo has his hand raised and has had it raised for a while. So, Bob, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I do. I think that since we cannot move forward on the SECRA until we get the 3D rendering that puts this project in perspective with what's around it already, and we need to get the opinion of the planning board, then I would like to suggest that this board request such a letter from the planning board, and that we adjourn this project until next month.
I think that it's perfectly acceptable for you to just be information gathering right now, despite the fact that you know those pieces.
Right. So
I do think also you haven't opened up the public hearing to the public
You don't
here.
need to open a public hearing for SECRA. There's no
No.
public hearing right now.
there's no public hearing right now.
I just want to say one last thing, if I may, just to clarify the question and answer that Frank was just exchanging. And Frank just mentioned it, but I really want to drive the point home. Creighton Manning's parking analysis did not incorporate these parking changes on the slide that we're looking at. Creighton Manning's conclusion was that the neighborhood, within a 6-minute walk, not just a quarter-mile distance, but a 6-minute walk, was that the neighborhood could absorb the parking demand of the 14 Water Street project as applied without any of these changes.
That's what they have currently given us. I was just asking if they could provide this so that we could kind of in our heads, like look at it a little closer, but if that's fine.
Madam,
I just asked.
if that would help the board, we'd be happy to run those numbers. I will say that they will make things look rosier, which is the very intent of the idea to change them. So we can do that if that would help the board, no problem.
I think it would be something that and again, I would like to be able to at least have that to, in part of our ongoing discussions. Since you are discussing it tonight, it would be nice to have that within our paperwork. Again, we are working on the SECRA process right now. And as Mr. Durayo said, that, we can't move forward until we get the additional information. It would be nice to have this as part of our additional information. Since you are sharing it tonight, it would be nice for us to be able to talk, within that context. I'd also like to be able to have a letter that the staff can actually ask the planning board to, send us something with their thoughts on this process and this project. And I would like to see the 3D rendering in context of the neighborhood. I think that those are the 3 things that we would really like to have so that we can actually work on the SECRA process and get that done so that we can move forward on answering the question on the parking variance and the area variance that is technically right in front of the board. I understand, like, we'd like to be able to move forward, but I think we need to take one step at a time. And again, the zoning board does not normally do the SECRA process, but we need to actually get through that process in order for us to move on to the next level.
Happy to do that, Madam Chair.
All right. Madam Chair, we do have some people here from the public. I'm not sure, but some of them may be here for this project, and I don't know if they're interested in providing comments. So you don't have to obviously do a public hearing for seeker, but you may want to hear from them on the variance application if that's what they're here for.
Yeah, so you don't have to move to open and close a public hearing, but if you'd like to accept public comment, that's up to you.
We could, if there is anyone here to speak on this project, who would like to give public comment, that is fine. Like, we can hear that at this point.
You have two people. First is James Bennett. I'm going to promote them to panelist. Something's acting up here.
I know,
All right, we also have Sheila Speller here. I'm going to promote her. Okay, we have Sheila Speller here.
Hi,
Sheila,
Ms. Speller.
do you want to unmute and turn on your camera?
Hi, this is Sheila Speller. Did you just call on me?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
did. Are you here to speak on the 14 Water Street project?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please give us your name and address. And again, this meeting is just to talk about the environmental impact part of the project. So, you know, we're taking comments, but there's nothing at this point going to be voted on for this meeting, but we'll definitely hear what you have to say.
Okay, thank you for calling on me. I would just like to comment that I think that this project, although I've been on quite a few of the meetings, that fitting in with the neighborhood, it is just a project that just seems that it's just another project to bring more people into the community without fitting into the community. With regard to the parking studies, already there is barely enough parking for the community that is in the neighborhood. I'm sorry, I didn't give my address. It's 41 Secor Road. And I am third generation, so my family has been here for some time. So I've seen the neighborhood go through a number of changes. I just would also like to bring 2 points. One is that I'm quite sure by the time we reach September that the volume of parking with commuters will be returning to the Metro North train station, and what happened prior to the shutdown of the shutdown we've been through with the pandemic, that the overflow of parking during the regular working days, during the working hours, had increased exponentially on Secor Road, on Water Street, on Central Avenue, and the surrounding areas. The other point I would like to bring up is that in our neighborhood, another consideration is that during the winter months, and our neighborhood is always one of the areas that cars must be removed from the streets. Because of our proximity to the train station, the Village Department of Public Works needs to make sure that Secor Road, Lower Main Street, and the streets back over here, that there's access to the train station. So I just wanted to bring that point up because I haven't heard anything about that, but that's all I have to really say. And I will continue to listen to hear what's going on and how or if this project moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jaime, you said there was Mr. Bennett.
Yeah,
was
we
there
have
also?
Bennett here, and I'm promoting him to panelist. All right, Mr. Bennett, you're a panelist. If you could unmute. Please unmute, Mr. Bennett. We can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
Welcome, Mr. Bennett. Are you here to speak on 14 Water Street? Okay, is there anyone else, Jaime, that is here to speak on this project?
The only person who has a hand raised right now is actually Kyle Beckley, who is one of the future board members. Did you have something you need to?
Kyle, do you have something that you would like to say? You have to unmute. You have to unmute, Kyle.
I actually muted myself again. Thank you for calling on me. So I just had a follow-up for Sheila. Sheila, are you still on?
Yes, she is still
I
here.
see her. I didn't know if she was hearing. So she said two things that I just wanted to ask about to help both the board and the people planning the project kind of address her two concerns, because as a
Yes,
resident,
I'm still here.
Okay, great. You actually asked about the winter months, and as someone who parks in that area regularly, that was a question that I had. So a question for you, Sheila, since you've lived there for a while, is do you think, and maybe Frank, if you could show the parking overlay with the 47 spots, overnight parking in the two boxes for a second? This might help visualize.
That's unmuted, but now I don't see the shake hand.
Oh,
there we go.
That's
So
Mr.
Sheila,
Bennett.
those.
Mr. Bennett's I apologize real quickly. Mr. Bennett, if you could just give us a second and then you'll be able to speak.
Sheila, on these upper two boxes, what looks like a yellow and orange box, those are currently not municipal lots. If they were converted to municipal lots and you didn't have to move your car in the winter months during snow, would that help with your issues as a resident as well as this project?
They were committed spots.
So Kyle, I think there's two issues. The green
Could you
box is
repeat that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just asking, in your opinion, on the diagram that Frank put up, is there anything in here that you think would be favorable for residents if the consideration for not having to move your car was also taken into consideration during the winter months?
Well, first off, the yellow lot that is currently there, the green one actually is right next to my property. It's behind my property. But the yellow lot is currently where residents, it does take in some overflow in that situation. But number one, I don't have a problem really with the Department of Public Works requesting during snowstorms that, vehicles be moved, because what happens is it allows for them to clear the street more efficiently. And I think that serves everyone better. Yes, they put it up on the sidewalk sometime, but that's irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, they clear it so that there is a clear thoroughfare during a snowstorm. Yeah, I mean, that lot is where a lot of cars move to Hunter Street, but because of the current capacity of cars that already take up space on Secor or Hunter or Lower Main Street or Water Street, I think it's just playing a game of checkers. And I just find it hard to understand where the extra spaces are coming from that are outlined or on the chart. I see it, I see where the possibilities are, but I don't know that it's really taking into consideration what the volume of cars in this neighborhood, again, pre-pandemic, what the situation is here.
I think this is Frank from Creighton.
And I think
it's important that we clarify what we're concerned about here. The presentation that's currently on the screen right now is only tangential to this application. This would benefit the residents of this community by giving them more parking spaces to choose from, independent of the 14 Water Street project. Right now, you can't park overnight on 14 on Water Street legally. So I think that's pretty clear that if the Board of Trustees were to look favorably on that change, that you would now have more space to park in a close proximity to this neighborhood overnight than you do today.
Okay, so I understand, and I think, and I'm going to say, I understand Ms. Speller's issue is not only the parking during good weather, parking there during bad weather, but those are some of the questions and impact questions that we would have going through the CEQA process, I believe, that we would be able to ask some of those questions among ourselves and try to figure that out. That's, those are some of the things that we need to work through, and that's why we're asking the questions. That's why I asked to look at this. That's why we're asking to move forward. But we, those are questions that we need to kind of digest. Trust me, Ossining is hilly, so not everybody's gonna want to park up on Secor Road to slide down the Water Street, and you would be sliding down the Water Street if the weather is bad. Excuse me, Ronald, wait, hold on. I also want to, at this point, recognize Mr. Bennett, who has had his hand raised and was waiting to speak. So I would actually like him to be able to come forward and say what he would have to say. Mr.
Can
Bennett?
you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm sitting here with Mr. Mosley.
There's two of us there.
We own the properties adjacent to the lot that they intend to try to build on. I'm on the right side. If you face the property, he's on the left. Formerly the parking lot you guys are talking about.
Can you give us those addresses, please? Can you give us those addresses?
I'm sorry. I'm James Bennett. I'm at 12 Water Street, Ossining.
And I'm Clarence Mosley, and I own 16 Water Street. We're on the properties on each side of 14.
Right.
And we do have some concern about what's being proposed. I do know formerly one of those parking lots you're talking about was formerly the neighborhood parking before it became train station parking. And I guess you guys have all thought about the environmental impact of having 8 more units on a one-way street that hasn't been repaired in the 37 years that I've been down here. I guess that's pretty much all I have to say. It's just that it seems like what I've seen of the picture of the project that they want to do, and I do wish they would do a model of it so that we could see what it looks like as opposed to the neighborhood itself. I'm glad to hear you guys saying that.
Well, and I'm also glad that you're not rushing into this, because I think they're trying to push it a little too fast. This is Mr. Mosley at 16 Water Street. And also, I don't know where they got these studies about the parking, because that's nowhere near what they're saying. There's definitely not enough. And even if they did let people park overnight on Water Street, then you'll have the people that already live here. Most families have at least 2 vehicles. The street will be filled if there is overnight parking. And not just that, and then to end it, I don't want to go on too long, but there's a lot you have, since this is an environmental type thing, there's a lot more concerns that we have that as far as this project goes, that a lot more than parking, so you need to really talk with the neighbors, talk with the neighborhood, because I honestly, my opinion, I don't feel as though the project fits where they want to put it. It's like, just because this block is a small block, it's a one-way street, but it happens to be in the area where the zoning is 4 stories and, however many dwellings are. But this block between 8 and 18 Water Street is 1 and 2 family homes. So you have, an area where it's, there was a building there before, but it was a 2-family home also. And, all these they're comparing it with other projects, but other projects have space to build, like the old, village barn down there. Okay, if they're going to build there, but they have, when they start building, they have place to put equipment, they have place, you can drive into that. You're talking about a space here that your property lines are right on top of each other where people live on each side. You're creating a lot of danger by putting something of this magnitude between, it's like finding a spot where, and putting the most that's allowed into the smallest space. And, I'm honestly, I'm not on board with it, but, I understand the process and, it has to be done, but I'll just let you know, there's a lot, we have a lot of concerns that are more than parking. So that's pretty much it that I would say.
Thank you.
If I may, Ms. Cheatham.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. Of course, I'll just briefly respond to our neighbors. We are building pursuant to zoning codes as of right. And that's really all I want to say on that point. But to Ms. Speller, I want to be very clear that nobody is suggesting any changes on C-Core. No one is suggesting any changing to parking on C-Core. If the Board of Trustees wants to take that up independently, that is entirely up to them. But these parking changes, one, do not impact C-Core, and two, and most importantly, do not impact our application, because as Frank has made clear, his analysis was done irrespective of any of those changes, and his conclusion was that the community can absorb it. And I certainly understand and appreciate that anecdotally and through people's experience of when and where they want to park, that some of these conclusions might not seem accurate. But Frank and Creighton Manning are well-respected experts in this field, and to the extent that somebody wants to produce an expert's report that contradicts that, we'd be happy to look at it.
So Amanda, I saw you had something to say. You unmuted before.
I'm good.
We do have somebody else who's here for comments as well.
I just like to say really quick, yes, and thank you for that. Yeah, no, my comment is not just a focused concern with Secor Road, Hunter Street, Water Street. It was just clearly community-based, This is a community, it's not street by street. So that's all I want to say. I'm very aware that, and I'm not just concerned about Secor Road. I am concerned about the community as a whole.
Sure.
That's where my viewpoint is coming from. Thanks.
Can I add one point here?
Before you start, Mr. Churchill, Jaime, there's someone else to speak. Do you want to let them in?
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Churchill.
Yeah, I just want to speak to the intent.
Very good. I just unmuted. Do you hear me?
Okay, Mr. Fry, hold on a moment, please.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to underscore one of the intentions of these potential changes that the Board of Trustees will look at, which is to turn. We understand that for a long time, and I'm not a resident of this neighborhood, but for a long time the emphasis on this area has been accommodating train station parking commuters who don't pay taxes in the city and the village and come in and park there at the expense of the residents of the neighborhood. And we hope that by advocating for these changes, that balance changes and that there are opportunities here to make parking better for this community. And that's irrespective of our project. And we hope that the taxpayers that are paying for the snow plows and the trash to be picked up and hopefully the road to be repaved are at the benefit and have a place to park in this neighborhood. And so we are, hopeful that this project of of which I am spearheading, is a catalyst for a voice to this neighborhood that can promote some of the changes that we've heard, that I've talked to you guys about, and in that way can better everybody's position.
Thank you. Mr. Fry?
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. I'm a professional land use planner and I live in Ossining at 36 South Highland Avenue. I'm not representing any client here. I've been in front of your board representing clients, but I did get all of the papers today and looked through them very carefully. I also happened to be in the neighborhood and saw Mr. James Bennett and Clarence Mosley a month ago. So I know that property very well. I wanted to make a couple of comments on the narrative that is on the 14 Water Street variance narrative revision 2. There's a question on page 18. Is the alleged difficulty self-created? And the answer is no. We have utilized the available zoning envelope, and per the Affordable Housing Code and Planning Board, we are granted a density bonus. That bonus creates a condition where the number of stories of the project must be increased. That is absolute nonsense. Obviously, the number of units could be reduced to make it 7 units and 1 affordable, and you do not need that variance. The idea that you have to add another story in order to add an affordable unit is, I'll try to be polite, but it's absurd. I think is the most best way to put it. And I'd also like to respond very briefly. This is not an as of right project. The applicant is obviously here asking for a boatload of variances. If it were an as of right project, they would not be before you today. And the nature of the variances, looks to me, I studied the zoning down there for another client actually, and this is what it's zoned for. But it's one of those unfortunate situations where the street is very clearly a very nice street of 1 and 2 family homes. And this will be the first attempt to use the new SPN zoning, which allows for as much as 8 units on a tiny 1 single family lot. It looks to me like this is not especially even if it were just what was permitted as of right, the idea in a village that has severe parking problems to say, oh, by the way, we can't do any of the 20 parking spaces we need on site. That just isn't fair to the neighbors, in my view. And when I look at that parking diagram that was shown before, if you kindly go back to that, not the neighborhood context, but the one that shows the parking, I think it's your slide number 24, the one that showed the proposed changes in parking. Could you kindly show that?
Certainly, this is pointing out that it's not 1 and 2 bedroom houses on this lot.
I'm sorry, but I've walked that block 100 times. Yes, they're 1 and 2 family homes. Now, if you kindly show,
it's actually not.
I'm not here to debate you.
Apartment buildings.
So we will not get into a debating match. We will not do that, Mr. Churchill and Mr. Fry. So I understand, Mr. Fry, where you are coming from, and you are bringing us to the point of talking about the variances that are before the zoning board. But at this point in time, we are still working through the SEQA process, and we have not really gone to that part of the process yet.
Okay.
It would be my suggestion that, if you would like to send us your comments so that we can actually look at them a little bit more closely when we can come to that point of the process. I think I don't want to muddy the waters between one process and the other. I don't know, Amanda may be looking at me strange, but I think that I think the SEQA process has to be done first. And I don't really want to start going down the area variance and the parking variance end of the bucket until we're there, and we're not there yet. And I understand where you're coming from, and I hear you clearly. I would ask for clarification to the board, and I think what you have said clearly, you know, you understand more than most. It would be very helpful if you actually put that in writing and sent it off to Jamie or Jaime, even in an email, and that it can go to the board and we can actually look at that and actually put it in the record.
I will be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't, if Bob, I saw your hand raised briefly. Did you still want to speak? If not, if there's, Mark, did you have something to say?
I was just asking if they could show that other diagram with the parking that showed the proposed changes to the parking area around that.
And I'm going to go back to the fact that those are proposed changes before the Board of Trustees, not really before us. We're just asking that they show it to us so that we can have it when we talk through the secret process. We're really not part of that discussion, whether it happens or not. I just wanted to be able to see it in order so that we can talk about it as we go through the process. I don't want to keep going back to something that really is not truly before this board and another board.
Okay, very good. I'll follow. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. I think at this point, and Amanda, you can double, you know, let me know. If there's no other comments from the board, can I ask for a motion to adjourn to the July session?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, you got two questions, one from Bob and one from Mr.
No,
Bennett.
I was going to call the question and make the motion, but George has already made the motion, so I will second the motion that this be adjourned until the July meeting.
So the question, so this would be adjourned to the July meeting with the information that should be provided for us to continue the secret process.
Yes.
And to be clear, can we be clear exactly what we're asking for?
Sure.
Is the applicant, does the applicant understand what the ask of them and?
Yeah, I can answer that. I would like.
I hope I didn't get my car wet.
Yeah, I would like us to I would like the Zoning Board of Appeals to ask for a letter from the Planning Board with their comments and recommendations and their feelings about this project. That's one. Two, we'd ask that the applicant provide the 3D rendering that puts into context their building with what is currently in the neighborhood, as well as what it would look like with the other project if it goes forward that is similar to theirs. And if they provide those renderings and we send the request to the Planning Board for their letter and their recommendations, and they are arrived by the July meeting, we might be able to make some progress. But without that information and the recommendations of the Planning Board, we cannot move this project any further forward than it is today.
Correct.
We won't be able to move the project forward until we finish the secret process. And that is what we are asking for that information for.
One other thing, Madam Chair, we will provide what you requested, just to be fully clear here. The third thing was the parking update based on the possible Board of Trustee parking changes. And we will do that too.
Okay.
So there are three things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for the clarification.
So we do have a motion on the floor, a motion to adjourn to the July meeting with the second by Mr. Durayo, motion by George. Second by Mr. Durayo. May we have a roll call vote?
Marlene Cheatham.
Aye.
George Bailing.
Aye.
Bob Durayo.
Aye.
Kevin Griffith.
Aye.
And Mark Gorechny.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn has been granted. We will look forward to seeing you in July. We look forward to getting the additional information, and we look forward to going through this process and moving this project right along. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So we're up to new business of the board, ZBA 08-2021, which is 7 Sherwood Avenue. The applicant is requesting to install 2 signs where only one is permitted. Is there someone here to speak on this application?
I don't know.
Is that,
I don't have anybody
who is
raising their
Ali
hand.
Tepper?
Ali's with
Who is
the,
Ali Tepper?
he's with the other group.
I'm with the 14 Water Project. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't see anybody raising their hand from that group.
Going once.
Going twice?
So a motion to adjourn to the July meeting because nobody came.
Second.
Okay, is that the way this works?
You know,
Shouldn't we kick it since they didn't show up?
There is one person here. You know what? There's one person here, Kennelyn. I don't know if that's
You
them.
can see if it is.
Let's promote them and ask. Well, let me ask them if they.
Ask
Kennelyn,
them why they're here.
Kennelyn, what are you here for any particular application? If you could unmute yourself.
Okay, so I would, we have a motion on the floor to adjourn ZBA 08-2021 till the July meeting.
You're gonna want to take 111 and 113 as well off because they're
same people.
But I think we have to adjourn them one at a time since it's 2 different applications.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Okay. So there was a motion on the floor, roll call vote to
Yes.
I just a motion to adjourn this to the July meeting.
Who was, I'm sorry, we had a motion and a second already?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe it was
Derayo and
George.
Okay.
George.
The roll call is Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
George Bailing,
Aye.
Bob Durayo,
Aye.
Kevin Griffith,
Aye.
and Mark Gorechny.
Aye.
Okay, so ZBA 09-2021, which is 111-113 South Highland Avenue, is the same applicant, since they were not here for the 7 Sherwood. May I have a motion to adjourn that?
Motion to adjourn to the July meeting, Bob Durayo.
Second, Mark Gorechny.
Okay, roll call vote.
Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
George Bailing,
Aye.
Bob Durayo,
Aye.
Kevin Griffith,
Aye.
and Mark Gorechny.
Aye.
Going on to ZBA 1418, 36 North Water Street. We do understand that Pleateau Associates was unable to make this meeting, but this is an extension of an extension that was already granted that would are asking for an extension to December, or 6-month extension to at this point. We do know that the village board is also on, their extension runs out in December. So it is with that, we are asking that.
I'd like to make a motion that this be extended until the same date in December that the village board's extension ends. That's a 6-month extension.
I think we extended as a 6-month extension.
Yeah, 6-month extension.
So motion to grant the requested 6-month extension?
Yes.
Second.
Second, a roll call vote.
Okay, Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
George Bailing,
Aye.
Bob Durayo,
Aye.
Kevin Griffith,
Aye.
and Mark Gorechny.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. So a 6-month extension has been granted to Pleateau Associates for 36 North Water Street. There is to be an informal presentation from 6 Rockledge. Is anyone here to speak on that project?
Yes.
Okay.
We have Doreen Joyo here. If you could, I guess it's under Philip Joyo. Could you unmute and turn on your camera, possibly?
I'm Ms. Joyo or Mr. Joyo. How are you? I understand you wanted to.
How's it going? I'm Philip Joyo. I'm here with my mom, Doreen Joyo.
Doreen. You're here to give an informal presentation on 6 Rockledge, and for those who may not know what that property is, can you just kind of, tell us a little bit about it and what you're seeking?
Sure. 6 Rockledge was the old Dudley's restaurant, which turned into the Goldfish. It lost its zoning based on the fact that it was closed for more than 6 months. So we're looking to open it back up and get the zoning back to a restaurant. We're planning on opening a cafe that's going to be a breakfast lunch place, and we plan on doing occasional pop-ups where we'll bring in different chefs a couple times a month and bring something new into Austin, food, not the thing, like regular would have, something that would vary monthly. Currently, some of the partners, we own a food truck. We have a lot of inside with, different chefs and stuff like that. So we would just like to do something a little different for Austin. We would like to plan on doing some brunching on Saturdays and Sundays. Mainly during the week, we were planning on closing, somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock, unless we were doing a pop-up event. And that's pretty much it. Our objective is to basically find out, what needs to be done to, get this show on the road. We know,
So at this point, have you, is your application in fully with the, I forget, planning, building, what department are y'all?
Yeah, let me try to give, so I'll give you the planning side perspective of this. So the application, they have the application in their hands. It's not a complete application yet, so we still have a bunch of components need to be done. The property, the interesting thing about this property is it has been looked at by the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think it was 20 or so years ago. The owner of Dudley's came forward and wanted to expand the size of the kitchen in the property. So they came to the Zoning Board of Appeals and asked for an expansion of a non-conforming use. And so that zoning variance was granted. Amanda took a look at it and determined it was really an area variance and not a use variance. And so, because of that, it continued as a non-conforming use until Sparta took it over. Sparta went out of business, and then it sat empty for, I think, about 4 years now. So as Mr. Joyo mentioned, it lost its use, its non-conforming use after 6 months. And so in order for them to get back and running as a restaurant, they're gonna have to go through a use variance process. And so this is sort of unique because there's very few occasions that you'll see a use variance coming off of something the zoning board has already kind of looked at and approved. This is a really unique instance.
So at this point, they would need to go through that process. Can they get on the July meeting if they get everything to you as soon as possible?
Yes.
Okay, so I would highly suggest that you set up a meeting with Jaime and Joe and get all your paperwork and ducks in a row, and then get on the July meeting, and then hopefully we can run through this process.
I
Okay,
have a question.
Thank you.
yes, Mr. DeRio.
What are they gonna call this new restaurant?
Pop-up.
So our last name is Joyo, but no one can ever pronounce it. So we would like to spell it Doy-O. So it's
Oh,
easy to.
Deo.
Yo-yo, okay.
What
Oh,
are you
yeah.
gonna
Okay.
serve is really more important. I mean,
What's that?
and what are you gonna serve? I want to know what's on the menu.
Yes.
Everything good.
Everything good. Correct.
Well,
And Philip,
I love that space. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to come all the way up to Ossining to go to Dudley's with my parents to listen to the music. They used to have a great piano player and good steaks. And we used to go there for brunch when it was the Goldfish. So I miss having it there. So I'm very
We see a lot
excited
of
for you.
people on Facebook and stuff really want it to be opened again. So
Yes.
hoping,
So
we're hoping we can make this happen.
yeah.
okay,
And now one last question. Are you
Mhm.
planning to do anything more in terms of expansion in that kitchen area? Or are you just asking to reinstate what was already approved prior to it losing its status?
Just reinstate everything. The only thing we would like to be able to use that I don't believe was used before was that outside front patio.
Okay.
There's the doors there. It's a fenced in area. It just doesn't have any, it's just dirt right now with a couple bushes.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's pretty much the only thing we plan on changing.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm done. I got no more questions.
okay. I just want to know, are you Philip Jr.?
I am Phil's
Philip the
grandson.
third? Yeah,
I'm
oh,
his
you're,
grandson.
okay.
Well,
So you're Philip the third.
one of the things that I'd like to just to bring up about this, in the past, when it was previously Sparta and Goldfish, a lot of the complaints we got from neighbors around there was because the lot is small and they use the parking lot across the street, was what they do with the garbage and the trash, because there's a lot of cooking and when you put trash from restaurants, and so it becomes an odor problem in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And we did receive a lot of complaints about that. So, when they consider reinstating this, I think that would be something to consider on addressing on how to resolve that problem. So we, if you get approved and you have a restaurant again, we don't have the continuous issues with the neighbors in that area with that. That happened to be the only complaint we used to get about that, is usually about how the trash was stored. So I would just suggest to just have that consideration on how that would be handled.
Yeah, I think Joe, you bring up a really good point, and we haven't had a discussion internally, but if you grant the use variance, I think this becomes a permitted use. So I don't know how you would want to ensure that not only that this applicant who's coming in, does a restaurant and gets it checked before they put anything, but if a subsequent person comes in and buys this property and they put a restaurant in, you would want to make sure that the planning board or somebody is reviewing how they're going to operate the space to make sure that there aren't future problems. And so I don't know how that looks in terms of granting a use variance, but it is something that we probably need to have a discussion with internally to figure out how to make sure that there's ongoing review of it if it ever changes hands.
Is it village garbage pickup now? Is that how it was in the past? Or was it a private company?
I'm not sure exactly with that.
I think it
But
was
either way,
either-
I know they had I'm sorry.
I'm almost gonna say, I know at one point it was, and because I'm looking at the dumpsters that were in that parking lot against, in the back of that parking lot. And I think they did I think they went either way. I think at one point they had contract carting like Valley or one of the other ones. And I think at one point they actually used the village, but either way, it needs to be whichever way you go, you need to make sure that it's done on a consistent basis and make sure that garbage is picked up,
I can tell you this much: the county does not accept commercial garbage. So if the village was doing it and it wasn't being done commercial, it wasn't being done correctly. So it will almost certainly have to be commercial pickup.
I would definitely say that the zoning board has the authority to require that it be a private pickup as a condition of any approval if it comes to that. And there can be other conditions of the approval too. And as Jaime alluded to, we can talk about that.
The village doesn't do commercial pickup anymore?
The county won't accept it. So the village doesn't have its own landfill. So if you want to take it to the county will not accept commercial garbage. You have to send it to a different landfill. That's the issue. So like, I don't know. I mean, I haven't dealt with it here in Ossining, but I know in Yonkers, they just don't, they're not allowed to do it. You know what I mean? You can't, you have to go somewhere else to dump your trash.
I know, but at some point, and Joe, you can correct.
It may have been done that way in the past, but it wasn't supposed to be. And it's certainly been changed for at least the last 5 years. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess you'd have to speak, I guess, to Paul about that, because I know that the village does pick up a lot of trash, like on Main Street, and you know, you have a lot of restaurants. I'm not sure how they handle, like, for example, on Main Street, they have the village lot behind there with the containers. And all of the, you know, all the buildings that are on Main Street are allowed to use that. And I believe that may be the businesses. I don't know if DPW has some sort of an agreement with the county or how they handle it or take it to another site. I'm not sure. You know, I
know at one point, and again, I'm going to go back to when I was a trustee, and this is why I'm just asking, that there were certain contracts or certain municipal agreements that people would be able to fill out as a business, and they paid for the carting. It was a separate carting expense. So not like, you know, the homeowners, they actually paid for the carting. So I don't know if that still exists. So, but that is something that they
I guess it's worth looking into. I don't want to speak out of turn. So, you know, take whatever I think with a grain of salt.
I mean, when we have the discussion internally, we can have Paul weigh in on that so we know how to guide the applicant.
Right. So,
you know, it's options.
So rather than drive Mr. Joyo crazy right now,
we'll get back to him on this.
Right. Yeah. So when you meet, by the time you meet with Jaime and Joe, and supposedly Paul, they'll be able to guide you through everything that you need to do, so that by the time you come to our July meeting, hopefully everything will be in place and that we can move forward with your application.
Yes.
Okay.
Hurry, I need brunch.
You got it.
I want to thank you for coming forward and for seeing us. I send well wishes to your entire family. I've grown up knowing them a long time.
Went to school with Aunt Maureen.
Oh,
I went to school with Aunt Maureen, and your other aunt is a good friend of my family, and I've known Phil forever. He's done more work on my house, which is now needing to be done over because it was probably 60 years ago, but a lot of what he's done is still standing. So so I have to say I've known you a long time.
Well,
okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are up to the approval of the minutes for May 11th, 2021. Can I get a
motion to accept?
May I get a second?
Second, Mark Rutschney.
So moved by Mr. DeRio, second by Mr. Gorechny. Roll call vote.
Marlene Sheeta.
Aye.
George Bailing.
Aye.
Bob DeRio.
Aye.
I believe Kevin was absent at the last meeting, so he shouldn't vote on them. And then Mark Gorechny.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried to for the minutes of the May meeting. I believe we can have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Mark Rutschney.
So motion to adjourn by Mr. Bailing, second by Mr. Gorechny. I do again want to say hello to Kyle for sitting in on the meeting. We can actually have a roll call vote to adjourn, or all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn unanimously by everyone here present today. So we look forward to seeing you in July. We have a few things on our July meeting already. Again, I want to remind the public that we do not meet in August, so we will be meeting in July, and we will be off for the month of August. So we look forward to seeing you in July. Have a good week. Happy 4th of July.
Wait,
We won't be